Music wasn't a hobby for him, it was survival. His family lived day to day, never certain where the next meal would come from. His parents worked tirelessly, but it was never enough. At night, in their small home, he would listen to old songs on a borrowed radio. He memorized melodies the way other kids memorized games. While others slept, he practiced quietly, afraid of waking his neighbors but desperate to get better. He didn't dream of fame. He dreamed of helping his family, of one day not worrying about tomorrow. People in the neighborhood started to notice him, not because he was loud, but because his voice carried something rare. Pain, hope, soul. Sometimes tourists stopped to record him. Sometimes a local vendor gave him food instead of money. Every small kindness felt like a miracle. Yet, deep down, he believed there was something more waiting for him, even if he didn't know what it looked like. One afternoon, a stranger asked him a simple question. "Why don't you audition for a talent show?" The boy laughed. Those shows were for people with money, confidence, and opportunities, not for someone like him, but the idea stayed. It followed him home. It echoed in his mind while he sang the next day and the next. Weeks passed, and the thought grew stronger. Maybe this was the door he had been waiting for. When he finally decided to audition, everything felt unreal. He had never been on a plane, never stayed in a hotel, never seen a stage that big. The journey itself felt like a dream he might wake up from at any moment. His parents hugged him tightly, fear and pride mixed in their eyes. They couldn't promise success, but they promised belief. Walking into the audition hall was overwhelming. Bright lights, cameras everywhere, other contestants warming up, dressed in outfits he had only seen on television. He felt small again, like he did on the streets. For a moment doubt crept in. Maybe he didn't belong here. Maybe this was a mistake. But then he remembered where he came from, the street noise, the long days, the sacrifices, and he stepped forward. When he stood in front of the judges, his hands trembled. His voice cracked as he introduced himself. He spoke about his life, his family, and how he sang on the streets to help them survive. The room grew quiet. Not the awkward kind of quiet, but the kind where everyone is truly listening. One of the judges leaned forward, curiosity written all over their face. Then the music began. The first note changed everything. The room seemed to freeze. His voice wasn't just good. It was haunting. It carried years of struggle, nights of hunger, and a hope that refused to die. Every word felt honest. Every note felt earned. The judges looked at each other, stunned. The audience stopped breathing. This wasn't just a performance. It was a confession, a prayer, and a promise all at once. As the song continued, emotions spilled freely. One judge wiped away tears. Another sat back in disbelief, shaking their head as if trying to understand how a voice like that could come from someone so young, so unassuming. The boy sang like the world was listening, because for the first time it truly was. When the final note faded, there was a brief silence, a heartbeat, maybe two. Then the room exploded. Applause thundered through the hall. People stood on their feet, clapping, cheering, shouting his name. The boy stood there, overwhelmed, unsure of what to do with his hands, his heart pounding like it might burst. The judges spoke, one by one. They praised not just his voice, but his story, his courage, his soul. They talked about authenticity, about how talent like this cannot be taught. One judge leaned forward and asked him what he would do if he won. The boy swallowed hard and answered honestly. He wanted to give his family a better life. He wanted to go to school. He wanted to keep singing. Then it happened, the moment that changes lives. One judge stood up slowly, eyes filled with emotion. They spoke about dreams, about how sometimes the world hides its brightest stars in the darkest places. The boy looked confused, unsure of where this was going, and then the judge reached out and pressed the golden buzzer. The sound echoed like thunder. Golden confetti rained from above, covering the stage, the judge's table, the boy himself. He froze, shock written across his face. For a second, he didn't move at all, as if his body hadn't caught up with reality. Then the tears came, uncontrollable, raw, beautiful. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by a joy he had never felt before. The audience roared louder than ever. The judges rushed to the stage, hugging him, reassuring him that this was real. Cameras captured every second, but no camera could truly capture what that moment meant. Years of struggle transformed into hope in a matter of seconds. A boy who once sang to passing strangers on the streets of Manila was now fast tracked to the live shows of one of the biggest talent competitions in the world. Backstage, he held the golden buzzer ticket like it might disappear if he let go. He called his parents, barely able to speak through his tears. On the other end of the line, his family cried with him, their voices shaking with pride and disbelief. The news traveled fast. Back home, neighbors gathered around televisions and phones, cheering as if they had all won together. But this story isn't just about a button or a stage. It's about what came next. The pressure increased, expectations grew. Suddenly, the world was watching. Social media exploded with clips of his audition, millions of views, thousands of comments, people from different countries, different backgrounds, all connected by one voice. Some called him an angel, others called him an inspiration, but behind the scenes, he was still the same boy, still nervous, still humble, still carrying the weight of his family's hopes. Training was intense. Vocal coaches pushed him to new limits. Producers worked with him on song choices, stage presence, confidence. Some days were exhausting. Some nights he cried from fear of failing. But every time doubt crept in, he remembered the streets. He remembered singing to survive. Compared to that, this was a blessing worth fighting for. When the live shows arrived, the stakes were higher than ever. The stage was bigger. The lights were brighter. The audience was louder, but he didn't let it swallow him. He sang with the same heart, the same honesty that had first captured everyone's attention. Week after week, he delivered performances that silenced the room and then set it on fire. Judges praised his growth. Fans voted relentlessly. Stories about his journey appeared everywhere. From local news in the Philippines to international headlines, his name became a symbol of hope. A reminder that talent knows no borders, and dreams don't care where you're born. Each performance felt like a conversation between his past and his future. Every note honored the boy on the street and the man he was becoming. And no matter how far he went in the competition, one thing was already clear. His life had changed forever. When he returned home during a break, the welcome was overwhelming. People lined the streets, cheering, waving, crying. The same streets where he once sang for spare change now echoed with his name. He visited his old singing spot, standing quietly for a moment, remembering how it all began. He sang again, not for money, not for cameras, but for gratitude. This journey from Manila streets to the AGT Stage is more than a viral moment. It's proof that hope can survive even in the hardest conditions. That talent, when paired with perseverance, can break through any barrier. And that sometimes all it takes is one voice, one chance, and one golden buzzer to change everything.